Hey guys, Morgan Radford here, correspondent for NBC News. And as you know, we've been talking to all kinds of people who can tell us a little bit how the coronavirus pandemic has been affecting them, but also people who have been helping in their communities. So earlier this week, we talked to people who were affected by domestic violence about how domestic violence survivors are coping right now, especially, how can you shelter in place if your shelter isn't safe? That's a similar question today. What if you don't have a shelter at all? How is this pandemic affecting people who are without a home? So we want to talk to Terence Lester. He has created Love Beyond Walls, and his whole mission is to make people who are without a home feel safe during this pandemic and get the resources they need to keep themselves safe, the communities they're a part of safe, and keep everyone else safe. So that's what we're here to talk about today. Let's go ahead and bring Terence in. That's from Atlanta, one of my favorite cities. Terence, you there? Oh, there he is. Hi, Terence. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Hey, thanks so much for joining us. I was just explaining to everyone a little bit about Love Beyond Walls and what your mission is, but tell us what you're doing, especially right now.
Yeah, sure. So our organization, first and foremost, we're about affirming the dignity of people experiencing homelessness by providing a voice, visibility, community, shelter, grooming, and support services to help people achieve self-sufficiency. But right now, during COVID-19, our organization has been putting portable hand washing stations out for people experiencing homelessness. A few weeks back, we started to hear these fears from our community, things like, I'm afraid that I'll contract the coronavirus because I have nowhere to wash my hands. And that's when we got the idea to start disseminating portable hand washing stations.
And so how do the actual hand stations work, and where are they?
Yeah, so right now we have about 51 around the city of Atlanta. Each station has a 5-gallon tank at the bottom of the sink, and it has a foot pedal on the sink. And basically what someone would do is press the foot pedal, and it causes the water from the basin to run up and shoot out the nozzle at the top and into the sink. The sink also is equipped with a soap dispenser, so people are also able to access soap and water. And it has a gray water valve that drains away the water away from the person who is actually washing their hands and also the sink. Right now, we've also spread to about 6 cities around the United States. We have sinks in Birmingham, Austin, Texas. We have some in Columbus, Ohio. We have some in California, San Bernardino, New Orleans, Baltimore, and later this week, we're sending sinks to New York City.
Well, we will welcome those sinks here. I have to ask you, Terence, how did you even come up with this idea? What made you think of it?
Yeah, it's a great question. One of the things that we pride ourselves in is building relationships with the community that we consider our friends. And, a part of that is knowing their stories, their fears, their concerns, their hopes, their dreams, their wishes. And when you're in close proximity to people, you kind of hear what concerns them. And basically, all of the ideas that our organization has come up with has been in direct response to the cries and concerns of our friends.
And when you talk about understanding these narratives, understanding these stories, you were homeless at one point yourself, correct? I mean, how does this pandemic look through someone in that situation's eyes? As we see these empty streets, when someone who doesn't have a home, how are they experiencing this particular moment?
Yeah, it's a great question. There was a part of my life, 16 and a half years old. I was a teenager, ran away from home. I remember sleeping in parks and from friend's house to friend's house. And I remember the weight of being misunderstood for going through the situations that I was going through. One of the things that I like to say now is that we need to reframe the term or the phrase social distancing. I like to use the term physical distancing. What we're doing is staying physically distant from one another to protect ourselves against the spread and the contraction of COVID-19. social distancing speaks to social isolation. And that's what many people experiencing homelessness are faced with. We've heard people say things like, I miss my community of commuters that drive back and forth to work. I don't have anybody to talk to. There hasn't been any groups bringing food out on a regular basis. And many people have gone weeks sometimes without even having proper nourishment. And then there's this other dynamic of libraries being closed and public places being closed as well. That kind of excludes people as well. Yeah.
And it's interesting because, you know, I don't know if people realize just how personal this issue is. How many people we personally know who have been homeless at some point in their lives, or even housing insecure at some point in their lives. So how can people help? I mean, I understand that you've moved also not just beyond these kind of hand sanitation basins, but also to masks. Is that correct?
Yeah, we partner with a local logistics company here in Atlanta, Vector Global Logistics, and they have secured us KN95 masks. These are non-medical grade masks that we have been disseminating to both essential workers that are serving this vulnerable population, but also people who are experiencing homelessness themselves. And it's just like you said, you know, I read an article earlier about people who are standing and waiting in lines for hours for boxes of food. Middle-class people who never would have thought this would have happened to them. And there's a real dynamic to what it means to go through hardship in this country. And basically what we're doing is standing with people who are on the margins right now.
So how can someone watching help you in your mission?
Yeah, if they want to, they can visit lovebeyondwalls.org. They can click Love Sinks In. They can donate. They can help us to continue to install stations all around the country. We literally want to take hand washing across America.
So, Terence, I have to end on this, because one of the things we've been talking about with everyone we've interviewed is kind of this message of hope. I think, as you mentioned, everyone's in a place where the people you're working with may be insecure in terms of their housing, but a lot of people around the country are insecure in some form or fashion, whether it's financially, whether it's socially, because of the stressors that this pandemic has put on our society. When you look around in this moment, is there anything that you see that gives you hope, that says this world is actually moving in the right direction?
Yeah, most definitely. Fred Rogers, the great Fred Rogers, says that we should look for the helpers. And when I look to the front lines, I see many people sacrificing their lives, ensuring that everyday Americans have the proper health care, have food boxes, have testing, have everything that they need to sustain themselves during this pandemic. And that's what I'm trying to focus on, is looking for the helpers and also being a helper, right? You know, it's one thing to look and observe, but it's another thing to, you know, roll up your sleeves and get in the game.
Well, God bless you for rolling up yours, man. We appreciate you being a helper, and we appreciate all the helpers who are watching. So thank you so much, Terence, for making this world a little bit brighter and a little bit better.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Have a good rest of your day.
All right. You too. Bye-bye.